Hey and welcome to our channel, Advanced Virtual Assistants. I'm Paula Edwards, the founder of Advanced Virtual Assistants. It's really great to have you here. So today we're going to be talking about VA versus OBM and what the difference is. So very often we'll see people thinking about becoming a VA, but they have never heard of an OBM or they're confused about what the difference is. So I'm hoping that I'm going to give you some clarity on that today. And essentially, the overarching thing is that a VA helps with the running of the business and an OBM helps with the business operationally. But what that actually looks like is so a VA is obviously a virtual assistant, is operational and administrative, and they support remotely. They help business owners save time. They often focus on the implementation and delivery, so they're doing the do. Sometimes they can specialize in various areas or various types of work, like social media, or various types of tools, like, I don't know, a ClickUp specialist or something. So it really can be the term virtual assistant really does apply to a very wide array of services that you can deliver. And as I say, ultimately though, it comes down to doing the do. So the sorts of things you might see is typically inbox management, diary management, maybe a bit of customer service, social media support, sometimes podcast support, sometimes bookkeeping, research, CRM management, or all-in-one platform tools, tech VA, tech support, content scheduling, project coordination, just making sure that all the wheels keep turning in the business and doing the repeatable, actionable tasks. So it isn't necessarily just admin, the VAs are very often quite highly skilled and like to roll up their sleeves and very much get into the business, but it's much more about doing the doing. It's the making sure things happen, what we call the implementation. Whereas an OBM, what an OBM stands for is an online business manager. And I liken it to being like an operations manager that works remotely and usually on a self-employed basis. So they're definitely much more strategic and at a leadership level. They can help oversee all of the operations within the business. This usually means it needs to be a bigger business because OBMs can charge more. They have got skills that cost more to the client, and the client would need, first of all, the budget to afford for an OBM, but second of all, need the team to have an OBM in there. So often they're usually a six-figure plus size business where they've taken on various team members, not necessarily on an employed basis. Often it's like maybe a content strategist or a social media manager, a VA perhaps, a bookkeeper perhaps, several people within the team, and it starts to become really unwieldy for the business owner to try and manage this whole thing to make it all work, and therefore they lose focus on the forward thinking strategy type of work. So this is when an OBM is like a really good fit to come into a business and help oversee, keep those cogs turning so that the business owner, the founder, can look forward at the strategy and do the things that only they can do, which is the high ticket things, the things that bring in the big money. Sometimes OBMs don't have to take on all of those roles, so there's usually quite a few hats to wear within that role, but they could maybe focus on various things, or they could focus on doing project delivery, just doing projects. Could be launch support, it could be focusing on systems and processes, putting those in, identifying, doing process mapping, and identifying where the processes are and then pull them together. What else could they be? It's essentially helping a CEO or a business owner implement their vision. And sometimes it's helping them formalize their vision. Often a CEO or a business owner knows where they want to take their business to, but they don't necessarily formalize what they want to achieve. They don't necessarily communicate it with the team, and they definitely don't map it out. So the sorts of things that an OBM can be responsible for is the team management, the operational strategy, workflow optimization, systems implementation, KPIs, That's key performance indicators, so metric tracking, launch management, business planning, process improvement, as I mentioned, delegation, and general execution and making everything happen, make sure all is happening as it should be. So it's the bridge between the business owner and the day-to-day execution of the tasks. So I guess what kind of person do you need to be to be a VA, or why would you rather be a VA? Sometimes people don't want the extra responsibility. It depends where you are in your life, or what skills you've already got. So sometimes people just want to have do the implementation, do the day-to-day work, but don't want to have any responsibility, don't want to think about work the minute the computer's switched off. That's it, work's finished. And that's absolutely brilliant and perfect and fine. Sometimes in our different stages of life, perhaps you've got a young family, that's exactly what we want. But sometimes some other people would rather be more in the business and thinking about that work outside of the working hours. I guess that's a big difference. So a VA might enjoy the variety. They like completing tasks, that opportunity to tick things off. They love organisation. They like to be able to support behind the scenes and not be too front and centre. They like the flexibility. Often they're very detail oriented and a bit less pressure and responsibility, as I mentioned. So there's no right nor wrong here or judgment. Either way, it's a great opportunity to be a VA or an OBM. I'm just literally trying to share what the differences are so that you can know which is the right fit for you. So some things with an OBM, maybe you're somebody who naturally takes ownership, tends to lead people. You definitely think strategically, so you're thinking the big picture of if that doesn't happen, then that doesn't happen, or if we need to get there, this needs to happen. You love systems and processes and efficiencies. As I mentioned, you can see the whole bigger picture. You like managing projects and people. You like improving processes, and you would thrive on the responsibility. So you can see there's quite a distinct difference there. Often what we see is people that set up as a VA, deliver that whilst it suits them and their lifestyle, but move into the OBM role when they've got more experience, more time, and want to up-level themselves. That's what we often see. You don't have to start as a virtual assistant first, though. If you've had some sort of managerial leadership roles inside an employed role, then absolutely you can go straight into the OBM role. And I think this is a thing that a lot of people don't, they know less about the OBM role. When I started in 2016, not a lot of people knew about virtual assistants, and now, as you know, it's very commonplace. And what I've watched over the years is that we've followed suit with Australia and the States. So, they tend to be ahead of us in terms of adopting this model. And so now I'm witnessing the same for OBM. So I'm now getting clients coming to me asking for an OBM. But if you're new coming into this environment, you might not have heard of an OBM before. So maybe that is the right way for you. So it just depends on your experience and really what you want it to be. In terms of what you can charge, of course, an OBM can charge more. VAs in the UK are typically charging around the £30 an hour, but can be up much more, depends if they're specialists, whereas an OBM is more like £60 an hour, and again, can go up. I'd say 40 wouldn't be unusual for a VA, and an OBM is more like 60, I would say, per hour, but we don't necessarily always charge it per hour. And because this industry is evolving, there's becoming more and more need for OBMs, because people are realizing that they need this role fulfilled, but they don't really know what it's called. But I really think it's going to just get bigger and bigger, like the VA role did. So I hope that helps you get some clarity between the two different roles and what it might mean for you, and what which route suits you better today. Maybe it'll change in the future. Hope that's helpful. Take care. Bye for now.